I'm busier than I've ever been. I've closed 14, but I have 16 pending. I've got, 5 active, 7 coming soon, 6 pre-signed listings, and, more in the pipeline. Real estate is a contact sport, but remarkably 90% of agents really avoid calling. Just it comes down to having more conversations. It's an unavoidable part of the business if you want to grow.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Vulcan7 Coaches and Mentors, where we bring you some of the best in the industry to share with you their tips and strategies so that you can implement in your business immediately. So with that being said, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about objections, objection handling, and the personality styles that you need to know in order to have better conversations. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and bring on today's guest, Daniel Harnsberger. Welcome, Daniel.
Hi, nice to meet you. Nice to see you.
Yes. For everyone that's tuning in, that's watching this episode, that maybe is not too familiar with you, just go ahead and share with us a little bit about your background.
Okay, well, as far as real estate goes, I've been an agent. It'll be 8 years in just in a couple months here, and I got into coaching about 2 years in to being an agent, and that was the best decision I ever made because it really just changed the trajectory of my career. I was a hard worker and had hustle, but I didn't have a refined presentation. I didn't have a prospecting schedule. Nothing about my business was duplicatable, replicatable, where I could build upon anything for the following year, just the way I was working prior to coaching.
Awesome. So, a question I love to ask all my guests is, what did you do before real estate? Because I feel like we all have like so many different paths that we've been on.
Sure, yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the cool things about the business. For me, I was in logistics before. I was a regional manager for a pharmacy courier company, so I managed independent contractor drivers that use their own vehicles to transport anything from over-the-counter medications to type 1, type 2 narcotics to nursing and assisted living facilities. And before that, I was routing trucks for as a distribution manager for a furniture rental company. So that actually helped me learn how my market was laid out. I got real familiar with zip codes and everything. And I think a lot of the things I did prior to, and then getting in, I actually was investing in real estate before I ever fathomed becoming an agent. So all these things ahead of time really helped me hit the ground running a little bit as an agent.
So, was there something that happened in your career that made you decide, what, I just want to go into real estate and actually be an agent now?
Not exactly. So I had 7 rentals at this point, and somehow I felt like that made me qualified to start a property management business because I was self-managing 7 rentals. Of course, I'm well qualified and experienced to manage other people's, but I believed in that dream, and so then I found out you had to be licensed in order to do something with someone else's property for a profit, even if it was just property management. So I wanted to be legit, so I got my license. This was in 2017. It was a very different market then. And because all I really knew was the investment side of things, I was like, well, I probably should sell some stuff because one, it's an opportunity to make money, but two, they probably won't keep me around if I don't sell something. So I was just selling to justify keeping my property management business. And I grew that, but then I started growing my sales business because I expanded from just selling, $60,000 little 2-bed, 1-bath bungalows back 8 years ago to where I started branching out into more residential resale, representing a lot of buyers like a lot of agents do to start. And then 2 years in, I went to a Mike Ferry East Coast retreat. It was 3 or 4 days. And I at that time, I just where my brokerage was at. It seemed like the glass ceiling was 40 sales. Like 40 sales, you were a rock star. And I was at this event and people were selling 100, 125 homes or more, and I didn't believe them. Like I didn't think that was fathomable, possible. And I got into coaching because all I wanted to do was be the best in my office. I mean, that was my reason. I was like, well, if I spend this money and it gives me an edge, if I do two more deals, like I'll more than have made my money back. So I got into coaching just out of pure vanity of wanting to be the best in my office. I didn't know where it would take me from there.
That's awesome. So fast forward to now, what does your business look like?
I mean, right now, I mean, I'm busier than I've ever been. I sold in 2024, I sold 56 homes, but I don't believe in pace in real estate because you have to keep putting in the work to get results. But I mean, if you where I'm at now, it's not a long shot that I'm gonna blow the last year's numbers out of the water. I mean, right now we're not quite a third of the way through the year. I've closed 14, but I have 16 pending. I've got, five active, seven coming soon, six pre-signed listings, and more in the pipeline. And I've got a couple of leads as well, and appointments set for this week. So business is good, but I want more.
So right now, is it just you? Do you have a team, or how many people are involved in everything going on?
Right now, I mean, I just added a second virtual assistant, and then I have a transaction coordinator who also works as an assistant as well. The two VAs live in the Philippines, but then she lives next state over. She used to live in the area, but she moved, and so I have three people. I use a showing agent so that I'm not out in the car with buyers. They're there for the showings, the inspections, the walkthroughs. So there's a lot of times on the buyer side where I'm selling a house and never walking into it.
That's awesome. So when it comes to your prospecting and your lead generation, obviously we see you have the headset on. What does that look
Yeah.
like for everyone that's watching?
Yeah. So 8 to 11 for cold leads. For the most part, expireds, FISBOs, a lot of circle prospecting, calling around my listings because I owe that to the seller, and it also helps me generate new business. Doing that, and then like an hour of lead follow up, or circling back, and that might just be calling, and calling database as well during that time.
That's awesome. One of the things that I know I mentioned earlier when we started this was personality styles. And obviously, I think you've mastered that with all of the calls that you've done. I mean, let's begin with that. How important is it to understand who you're talking to?
Well, I think mastery might be a stretch. I mean, I appreciate the compliment, but I mean, I've come a long way with it to being like, oh, do I need to really know this? To like, okay, I really need to know this. This makes sense. Why? To having a pretty firm grasp of when I'm talking to somebody, I know
Mhm.
which of the four personality styles I'm talking to, and knowing that, or think at least thinking it, gives you an idea of not only how to present information but also when to present. If I'm talking to an analytical or an amiable, I want to go last. An amiable personality type, they might just say yes to you because that gives them, and if you're last, because that prevents them from having to have said no to the other people that they interviewed prior. In analytical, now they have all the information, and if you present, give them everything they're looking for, then they're going to sign with you. There's a high probability of doing so. Drivers and expressives, you want to go early in the process because they're quick about it.
So when it comes to these four, which one do you think is the one that most agents struggle with in terms of just communicating or even getting through?
That's hard to say. It's hard to say. For me, amiable is kind of tough. Um, uh, that That's probably the toughest for me, but I mean, 25% the personality styles, there's 4 personality styles, each makes about 25% of the population. I in turn think that probably means that 25% of the people you would ask would say, agree with me, amiable is the toughest. Others would say the driver. If I was to guess one, I'd say driver, just because they're
Mhm.
like, more aggressive. They just want the information, and a lot of agents, I think, have a hard time doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just short and to the point. Whereas I actually, once I asked Mike Ferry, who I call the king of drivers because that's his personality style. I asked him, I said, "Hey, how can I modify the presentation to present to a driver?" He gave me a tip for that, and I mean, that was worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, that's
Made
awesome. No,
It made me really comfortable with presenting to him.
yeah. And I think for any agent that's watching this, that's maybe wondering, Dan, how can I get better at figuring out the personality that I'm talking to? What tip would you give them?
I think I think you could study and read up on them all day, read the bullet points of the characteristics of each, but it's going to come with practice and talking to a lot more people. And that's, real estate is a contact sport, but remarkably 90% of agents really avoid calling.
Mhm.
And then how do we make our calling better? The biggest thing for me beyond personality styles is learning to handle objections, and that comes with implementing practice into my schedule. I do role play at 7:30 a.m. and then specifically objection handler role play at 11:30 a.m. Most every day of the week, most weekdays, and that's been huge because it's not that you're saying anything so compelling when you're handling an objection. It's the fact that you have something competent and say it confidently,
Mhm.
and you're not stuttering or have a deer in headlights look when you're answering or responding.
So what are some of the typical objections that you're hearing right now? Maybe let's say when it comes to expireds.
I would say expired. So one typical one. I mean, all objections. First of all, what's an objection? It's instead of the seller asking you a question, they're posing it in the form of an objection because they don't want to look vulnerable to a salesperson. So I think that's key to know, number one. And any objection, it's going to fall under 3 categories: service, price, or commission with what we do. I mean, that's most of it. Service, how is your marketing plan any different? What are you going to do differently? Like that would be a chief one you hear from
Mhm.
expired. A lot of times listings expire or canceled because it didn't sell, and it's because of price. So I would say those are the main two that you're going to want to be on top of and know how to handle.
How about for sale by owners?
I mean, that's, I think, commission and what are you going to do for it, and you know I mean, it's price, commission, all the above. It comes down to money most of the time.
Yeah. So at the time of this recording, I'm hearing the real estate market is different in so many different places. In some places, it's a buyer's market, and some it's a seller's market. Can you kind of share how it is where you're at and like what you're seeing?
Right. For us, so we're seeing the average sales price continue to go up, but then but then you're seeing the total number of sales, pending sales, go down from like year to year,
Mhm.
looking at just the last couple of years. So it tells me even though we have less than a 2 month supply, and to be in a buyer market, or a more fair market, you want to have like a 5 month supply. We're far from that. Um, and as a result, you can create a bidding war, but you want to really proactively price. It's
Mhm.
not 2020 or 2021 where you could just throw it up for a higher number, and I mean, there are so many more buyers out there.
How about for buyers that are currently in the market? Are you seeing maybe some of them hold off giving you the interest objection, or we want to see what's going to happen with the economy and things like that?
right now, I mean, I don't prospect for buyers anymore. And let me explain. I work with buyers. I mean, I'm happy to. It keeps my showing agent fed.
Mhm.
But if you prospect for sellers, which is how you're always going to stay in the game, no matter what the market is, if you prospect for sellers, you're going to find buyers because they're going to move. Or as a result, I mean, if they're not moving here, I have more outbound referral business this year alone than I have like at least the previous couple years combined.
That's so awesome. Yeah, referral business. Obviously, the focus is on listings and then the buyers naturally come. And it sounds like when it's that way, these are buyers that are already serious and actively looking instead of giving you objections about what's going on, right?
Right. I mean, if you have more signs in the yard, more people are going to find you, and you're going to have a greater online presence also.
Mhm. Yes, yeah. So for someone that's watching this, that is like, you know what, Dan, my year has been really slow. I want to make sure that I crush it. I'm still early in the year. Like, what are 5 things or 3 things that agents need to be doing right now that you would say?
So you need to just, it comes down to having more conversations. And if you're having a lot of conversations and a lot of contacts and you're not converting, then it comes down to skill.
Mhm.
No matter what your skill level is, the more conversations you have, the more deals you're going to convert, the more money you're going to make. But I think you can have the best of both. Work on your skills so you have more efficient and productive prospecting time, so you convert more calls into appointments and more appointments into listings. That's
Absolutely.
that's the whole game. If you can handle objections and you have good energy, then like you're going to be fine. And most people just won't take the time. I mean, I'm doing it for not even an hour a day of practicing skills, but I mean,
Mhm.
it pays off immensely. And we have the ability to get paid at a level of professional athletes, certainly more than doctors and lawyers and everything. And all we have to learn is some basic questions to ask people, whether it's scripts or just, I mean, if you don't believe in scripts, then hopefully you at least believe in asking open-ended questions and only asking closing questions to close. Um, but beyond that, again, it's just being able to handle objections. Because I don't care who you are, if you just work within your database and you get
Mhm.
referrals from that database and repeat clients, you're still going to have to learn how to handle objections. It's an unavoidable part of the business if you want to grow.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that you're saying that because that's exactly it. We see agents all the time. They say they want to make X amount of money and be top producers, but sometimes they don't want to put in the work to better their skills or actually do the thing.
Every, yeah, I mean, everyone. It's like anything else. Everyone wants the results, and I
Mhm.
think I think one trap too is like there's one of the most dynamic real estate professionals I've ever met. He's at a place in his career where he's working on the business more rather than in the business, but still within real estate. He leads a big team, has a huge downline, and uh, so he does a lot of social media promotion, but and people see that and they're like, well, he's amazing. I want to be at his level, so I'm going to do a lot of social media. He didn't go from A to Z.
Mhm.
It is a process, but he was in the trenches and he got to that level. The great thing about real estate, there's no one way to do it. There's no one trajectory. So you could be a brand new agent and just, but there's nothing that says you can't become a social media superstar, I guess. But
Yeah.
to me, real estate social media is as saturated a medium as anything else, as YouTube fitness. I mean, there's tons of
Yeah.
fitness influencers. You go to your local gym, there's some
Mhm.
person with a tripod filming their workout and doing whatever. And but to me, real estate, social media, I mean, who watches that the most? It's other agents.
Yeah.
So I think unless you have something very unique about you, whether it's your look or your presentation, which falls under look also, or just how you present information or speak or whatever, I mean, you're just kidding yourself. And because my business isn't built on likes and the edification you get from the comments on social media. It's a way to remind people you're in the business, and you may get some from it, but for the majority of us, yeah, it's just not going to be the way. You're just kidding yourself.
Exactly.
The time you take to film, edit a video, even if you're not editing it yourself, you could spend that doing 2 hours of solid
Mhm.
calling and lead generation. But it's not as sexy and it's not as fun per se. I mean, I think it's fun, but I'm a sick man.
No, I get it. I agree. I agree. So, as we wrap this up, for anyone that's watching that maybe does have a referral for you or wants to get in touch, what's the best way that they can connect with you?
Yeah, buddy. So if you have anything in Virginia, like you have someone who's buying or selling in the state of Virginia, call me. Do I service all of Virginia? No. But if it's not my market, I'll be the first to tell you and refer you to someone who does work that market, because I'm going to give good service. And if I don't know the area, it's a little more difficult to do that. So my number is 804-380-1190. Feel free to call me if you want to talk to me about EXP. I don't know if that's kosher to say here, but if you want to talk to me about joining my line, where I can provide coaching and mentorship, then feel free to call that same number, 804-380-1190.
Awesome. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for hopping on a couple minutes with us here at Vulcan 7. We really appreciate, all of the gems that you dropped. We'll make sure to put all of your info in the description box below. And with that being said, everyone, we'll see you on the next one.
Thank
Bye.
you.